we decided that the next story we would tell is about Raimey's pacemaker, and her pacemaker ended up being a huge failure. Womp, womp, womp. So to take it from the start, Raimey needed a pacemaker because her heart rate was dropping down into the 30s and the 40s at night, and then also going high during the day, but that was less of a concern. Having exceptionally low heart rates and going out of sinus rhythm into junctional rhythm can cause less blood flow to the organs and can cause some problems with other parts of your body. So we went ahead and agreed to pacemaker surgery.
After I passed out.
Do you have a pacemaker?
No, not anymore.
No. Do you remember the final reason that we decided to go ahead with the pacemaker?
Because I passed out.
So she passed out. She actually was having a nosebleed and sat down. So I was sitting right with her, and she passed out right in my hands, and we carried her to the couch and took her oxygen and her heart rate and called 911, and ultimately it just seems to be a drop in heart rate and a drop in oxygen saturation that caused that issue. So the next part of the story is her actual surgery, and she was scheduled for surgery to have a pacemaker placed, but it was not the traditional type of pacemaker. Can you show them about where it was placed? It was in her sternum rather than in her shoulder, which would be typical because of the way that her heart sits in her chest. And surgery was planned for about 1 hour, but an hour turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4, and ultimately ended up being 6 hours. And you can imagine I was a worried mom and freaking out a little bit. The problem seemed to be that her pacemaker leads could not generate electricity, so the actual pulse could not get through like the scar tissue in her heart to work properly. So they had to try really hard to get a place where it could pace. And ultimately, after about 5 or 6 hours, they did get it placed and it was working. So after pacemaker surgery, we only ended up being in the hospital one night, and the next day went home. Things looked good. We thought everything was going to be fine, but during the night, Raimey became, she was having some difficulty breathing. Do you remember how you felt?
Like I was breathing out of a straw in a milkshake.
Trying to drink a milkshake out of a straw. So it just seemed really, really difficult for her to get a breath. So where'd we go?
To the ER.
And in the ER, they put you on oxygen, started monitoring, and ultimately started giving meds to remove the extra fluid from your lungs. So that was called pleural effusions post-op. And ultimately ended up keeping us in the hospital a few days after surgery to recover from the pleural effusions. So about just short of a week, I think it was 5 or 6 days after pacemaker surgery, Raimey was discharged and we went home. She had the pacemaker set at 60 beats per minute and things should have been fine. And once we got home, she kind of did some resting, taking extra naps, trying to recover, mainly because she had an actual sternal incision. And so we thought everything was good. That's the end of part 1, because part 2 is where
the action and drama comes in.
The action and drama. Another ER trip or 2 and being readmitted to the hospital with MRSA.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Hope you tune in for part 2.